And good morning. Motivation from the tarot. And today we're going to be talking about the Emperor card. Lessons that we can learn from the Emperor. The number and 4 in numerology stands for firm foundations, solid structure, and that sums up the Emperor card beautifully. The Emperor is all about law, rules, regulations, stability, order, maintaining order. And sometimes you can look at the Emperor and think, this card is it's not really speaking to me because it's too rigid, too authoritarian. But a lesson that we can learn, build something that is going to last, that is going to withstand the test of time. It has to be built on a firm foundation. Think about the pyramids of Egypt on the Giza Plateau. Historians, they don't always agree on how old the pyramids are, and I need to look this up because I tend to forget. But I think that when I was in high school, they were teaching us the pyramids were probably only about 5,000 years old. Now, I don't know if that dating still stands, but yeah, that's what we were taught, if I remember correctly, way back in high school. Now, lately, there are some geologists that have been looking at the Giza Plateau and have been dating the structures around it using other methods. And there are some people that believe they may be far older, that they may go back, 12,000 years, maybe even 26,000 years. So, those, because they were built on they were built so well that historians and people that try to date those structures will disagree sometimes on how old they actually are. Could they be 3,000 years, 5,000 years, 10, 20,000 years old? It's like it was so well built, has not been able to affect those structures that much. Now contrast this to a story that I heard when I was in Minnesota. Minnesota's way up in the north, but one thing I learned about Minnesota in October and then extending into April, it gets cold as heck out there. And I heard the story about a guy that was pulling his camping trailer behind his pickup truck. And this was in January, cold as could be outside, several degrees way below zero. And he was looking for a nice little place to camp in the winter, seclusion. And he had his camping trailer he was pulling. He had it stocked with food. He had, butane gas, propane, whatever he was using, propane, I believe. Clearing. He was driving through this remote, opened up onto this beautiful clearing. Lots of space. And so he pulled his truck, he pulled his camper out into the middle of that clearing. He dropped his little camper. He set it up. He turned on his heat. He went in there, enjoyed himself for the weekend, and then decided, this is such a beautiful place. In January, I want to come back and see what this place is like in spring. So he instead of hooking up the trailer, he left it right there. He had every intention of coming back to that trailer. So he got back into his pickup truck, went back home, forgot about it for a few months, and then when spring came, when the weather started warming up, he remembered he left his camping trailer out there in that clearing, and he wanted to go back to see what that beautiful place looked like now in the early spring. And he went out there. He followed the same road. He knew the directions. He could not find his trailer. Instead, the clearing that he had camped in became a lake. And his camping trailer was at the bottom of that lake. It was a clearing in the middle of January was actually a lake that had been so firmly frozen over that he could drive his pickup truck onto it, no problem, drop his little camper there, no problem, spend the night there, no problem, as long as the temperature was like 20 degrees below freezing. But the minute things started warming up to above freezing, the lake melted, the camper broke through the ice and settled to the bottom of that small lake. And so that's an example of what happens when you build something on foundations that are not firm. When you build something on a foundation that shifts from 1 month to the next, from 1 year, that we can learn from the Emperor card, a card of firm foundations, is that when you're building something and you want that something to last a good long time, like maybe the rest of your life, build on fundamentals. The Emperor can stand for the practice of just getting back to basics, getting back to basic fundamentals. And in our world, our modern day world, our online world, things seem to change so fast. Language changes, computer sites change, social media sites change, everything changes. I've been on Twitter, now X, for quite a few years using various accounts. Used to doing things a certain way on X. You know, don't get bored because things will change. It seems like I've been doing spaces on X now for a couple of months. And just in that short span of time, about how I program it into my phone. Everything is in a constant state of change. But there are some things that must remain the same. Some things that must remain basic and fundamental. And you can think, okay, what would that be? Well, in business, one basic thing that you can hang your hat on, one fundamental that you have to become good at, is the art of good communication. Learn to talk to people in a way that makes them feel comfortable, doesn't make them, put their hand on their pocketbook and run away screaming, but be able to talk to people in a pleasant way, in a friendly way, and be able to make friends out of people as best you can. And if you want to do business, then you want to make friends with a wide variety of people that might be interested in your business. And one book that really talks about this, one book that I take off of my library shelf and read about once a year, is one by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And this is something, when did he write this? 1920s? Something like that. My dad got a copy of this back in the 1950s. But this book is based on the fundamentals of friendly communication, and it's built on fundamentals that not only go back to the early 1900s, but it really goes back hundreds and even thousands of years. In a friendly, non-threatening way, with a wide variety of people. That is a business practice that goes back thousands of years. Shells met another guy with a wicker basket. I'm willing to trade some of my seashells for a few ears of that corn. How do you do that? Do you hit him over the head and grab his corn? No. You talk to him. You say, hey, I've got these seashells. You got that corn. Would you like shells in exchange for a few ears of that corn? And then if the person is open, you talk a little bit more, you make a trade, you strike a deal, and that's how business has been done, with a few slight variations and modifications over the last few thousand years. Now, in the internet age, a lot of people think everything's changed because we no longer have to talk to real people, right? There are a lot of people out there that think they can just use AI, chat GPT, AI bots, to write their emails, to make comments on social media posts, to send direct messages to people online, to people. So you don't have to get out there and talk to people. You can just be stuck behind your computer screen and not talk to anybody. Just post a little bit of content and that's it. And then let the chat GPT or the AI bots do the rest of the work. But the thing is, people know, for the most part, when you're using AI. People can tell when it's you that's talking once they get to know you, and they can tell when you're using a different AI program. And a lot of us can tell, when somebody sends us a direct message and it's written by AI, a lot of us have learned how to spot that. And so if you're thinking that you no longer have to learn the skill of talking to people to do business in the 21st century online, then I think you're sadly mistaken. Is one of the basic skill sets that still holds. When you learn how to talk comfortably to a wide variety of people in a friendly, pleasing, non-threatening way, you develop the skill to be able to grow a business online or anywhere else, a business that can create an income of 5 figures a year, 6 figures a year, 7 figures a year. The limit is only in your mind and imagination. As another entrepreneur that I read, Napoleon Hill, once said, your only limits are in your mind and imagination. But I was listening to a lady on YouTube talking about how she went from homeless to being a multiple 7-figure earner. And that story caught my attention. I wanted to find out what was her secret. Her secret is what I've been talking about in this presentation. Getting back to the fundamentals of becoming comfortable talking to a wide variety of people and being able to do public speaking or personal one-on-one speaking. And she said she went from living in a cardboard box to actually building up multiple 7-figure businesses just by getting good at talking and in a public setting, in public speaking, talking to people in mass, talking to a lot of people, hundreds and even thousands of people. Once you get that skill set developed, and it's a learned skill. I don't know too many people who are really born with the gift of gab. When I was growing up, that was one saying that people would use. They were born with the gift of gab. But as I've gotten older, as I've gotten to know people and look back on the people that I have known over the years, I've observed that most people that have the gift of gab, they weren't born with it. They developed it slowly over time. They focused on that one fundamental. The fundamental of being able to communicate with a wide variety of people. Trump, people love him, some people hate him, but Trump is a good example of this. In some of his books that I've read, people, there are no small people. We're all just people. Some have bigger dreams than others, but we're all just folks. We're all just people. And he treats people like that. But he can be comfortable talking to royalty. He can be comfortable going down to the corner McDonald's or the local drive-in and just talking to average folks on the street, talking to average people coming through the drive-through window. I mean, that guy knows how to communicate in a way that resonates, not with everybody. I mean, in business, you don't have to resonate with everybody. You just have to resonate with enough people to make it worth your while. And Trump has found a way to resonate really with, I would say, the vast majority of the people that he encounters. Yes, he has a small minority of very ardent and vocal detractors. I'm around, most of the people that I deal with have a very high regard for the president. and a very deep respect for the president. And that's one thing we can learn from him: the art of being comfortable, talking to a wide variety of people, whether they're princes. Get comfortable talking to folks. And in business, this is essential, because if you're not talking to people about your art, about your craft, about your business, whatever it is, you're not going to be making sales. You're not going to be getting anywhere in your business, in your craft, or in your art. So again, the art, one that is held true day and age. The thing is, a lot of people think that everything's changed and that we can now use the latest gadgets and spend a lot of money on these tools and gadgets to get what we want. But in the end, it just comes down to a few basic fundamentals. Learn how to get comfortable talking to people, and then get out there and start talking to people. And you can start making sales in your business without all the bells and the whistles, without all the latest gadgets. Just ask people, hey, do you want to take a look at this and maybe trade a few ears of your corn for my seashells? It's all about the art of communication. Getting back to that base emperor card. Structure, people think that's a bad thing, too authoritative, but that can be a good thing, because we're talking about building on firm foundations here. Building something that's going to last. Building something that might last 20,000 years, like some stone structures in Egypt may have survived for that long, rather than a trailer parked on a frozen and 6 months later is down at the bottom of that lake, totally unusable. Yeah, if you want something that's going to last and stand up, you want it to be built on firm foundations. You want to be paying attention. So that's one lesson that we can learn from the Emperor card. Now, what I'm going to do for the remainder of this space, I'm going to deal out 2 cards. I've already got the Emperor card dealt out. I'm going to get 2 more cards and then mix them up. And we're going to see what kind of a reading we can do. And it's always fun trying to shuffle. I don't know where the Emperor card is right now, so just lay them out on my table. Start turning cards over. I got a 3-card spread. First card is Justice. Interesting that should come up. Justice, another fundamental. Building things on a firm foundation of honesty, truth, and justice. The best societies, period of time, because ancient peoples recognized that true foundation that they could build their civilizations on. And when truth and justice got eroded away, the society collapsed. The civilization fell. As long as the civilization is built on the firm foundation of truth and justice, that civilization has a good chance of surviving. Everything crumbles. And we see that through history. Fall of the Roman Empire, fall of other empires, problems we've been having in our own society for the last few decades. We need to get back to a foundation of truth and justice, and not lies, deceit, and past. A reminder, another fundamental we need to build on, what I've been talking about here too, is that if you want your empire, you want your civilization to stand, it has to be based on truth and justice. Might alone can hold up an empire for a while, but if it's not built on truth and justice, even the mightiest weapons won't be able to keep it going for very long. Societies that were built on just brute force, they will last a generation or so, maybe several generations, but eventually and that's a good reminder there. If you want your kingdom, whatever it may be, your relationships, your online business, if you want your business, your relationships to last, they have to be built on truth and justice. And then what's the last card? Temperance, representing healing, the flow of emotion, a card of healing, a card of love, a card of friendship. So the overall message I get from this, and I didn't ask a question, I'm going to start, but the general energy that I get looking at the Justice card, the Emperor card, and the Temperance card is that if you've had a past relationship in which truth and justice felt like it was compromised, and you felt like that relationship was no longer as solid as it could have been, there is a chance to re-solidify that relationship by getting back to truth, justice, fairness shows the way. If a relationship has gone through serious damage, healed through love, through care, through forgiveness, through healing. I'm not talking about forgiving and forgetting and just setting yourself up to be hurt all over again, but forgiving, remembering, and being able to move on anyway. And recognize that when a person has changed, recognize that they have changed as they used to be, but as they are now. And don't carry a lot of that old baggage from the past over into the present relationship. Forgive and be able to move on in a enlightened, knowledgeable way. So yeah, if you've been in a relationship in the past where things got wonky because the foundations of truth, justice, love, fidelity, something happened, and maybe for a time the relationship got turned upside down and you thought it was over. If both parties are willing to try to make a fresh start, to try to repair the damage done in the past and build a new relationship going on into the future, things can never be the way they used to be, no. But they can be different, and they can possibly be better. But if they're built on the justice and also love and fidelity. So that's the message I get here from these three cards. Justice, the Emperor, Temperance. The strongest relationship can go through testing. It may seem to have had a firm foundation, but it will go through testing. Love and fidelity can carry it through that testing period. Ship's reading is what came out there. But anyway, yeah, that's an example of how we can use the Emperor card in a reading and how the Emperor card can have many different meanings, some positive, some negative. And that's true of every card in the tarot deck. They all represent different archetypes, different universal ideas and concepts and thought forms. And each of these archetypes have a positive side. They also have a negative side. And whichever side that you see in a reading is the side that you want to work with. So that's all for now. This is Ralph signing out with this space, and I don't think, yes, I will. I'll be back tomorrow, Friday, at 8 a.m. Central Time, and we'll be talking about another card, the Hierophant, and also known as the, I'll be talking about that, card number 5 in the Major Arcana. That will be 8 a.m. Central tomorrow here on X, and I'll also be presenting this in video format on my other accounts. So until then, this is Ralph signing out. Have a great day. We'll catch you in future updates. Bye-bye.